Hi everyone in cloud computing, welcome to episode 10 of the Cloud Computing Training Show with Brad Nelson, an internationally recognised and world's #1 cloud industry expert and thought leader, David Linthicum. This show is sponsored by Nelson Hilliard, cloud computing recruitment specialist, placing great people in cloud, IoT, fintech and AI. In this week's show, David and I will be talking about why hasn't cybersecurity awareness training been added to every corporate training program. Hi Dave, great to see you and welcome back to another Cloud Computing Training Show.
Yeah, and this is an important one. This is something where my clients fall down all the time and really need to kind of emphasize this. So it's not just, having the smarts to, stand up, workloads on Amazon Web Services, but it's having the smarts to ensure that your developers, employees, people in the company don't leave doors open that can expose your data. Which has been the case, as we talked about before with the NSA case and a few other folks that have just kind of misconfigured things, oopsie, and then had top secret information, secure information, things like that be exposed out into the world.
Yeah, I know there's been some crazy mishaps going on, really unbelievable, and it's people's private data that's being leaked as well, obviously. So the company just go, oh yeah, we're really sorry about that. But we didn't mean to do it. The question comes in as this. Are companies aware that training is at the heart of cybersecurity? From a training point of view, and where people should be learning and learning more about cloud cybersecurity is really key, isn't it? Because it just doesn't make sense to build a very strong door and sort of let your employees consistently leave that door open for everyone via a very special, easy URL.
Yeah, I think this is something that's overlooked, and the reason is because quite frankly, when I go into an engagement, I have cybersecurity experts and cloud security experts, that can recommend all kinds of encryption, identity access management, and some very good tools, and doing some things in terms of how we're going to encrypt things at rest and flight, very technical solutions. But at the end of the day, if someone's putting their password and user ID on the terminal with sticky notes, there's not a lot I can do about, the things not occurring, which typically is how things occur. It's human error that occurs. With the NSA thing, it was a misconfiguration, probably someone who's ill-trained and leveraging AWS S3, and then we have lots of things that occur, that are just around human beings being the most fallible part, of the security systems that are out there. So you can't have cybersecurity, cloud security, really kind of a lockdown way unless you kind of deal with the human beings that are there and basically locking things up. And you can use the tools until the end of time. You can use two-factor authentication, all these things that are really good to have, biometrics, things like that. But the reality is that the people who are authorized to access the information, they can get around all those various systems. And if they do, then all that stuff is for naught. And so here you are, spending tens of millions of dollars in terms of cloud security and cybersecurity for your company, and probably doing so on a monthly basis in many instances, some of these Global 2000 companies. Now you can have the capability of basically going the last mile and spending, $500,000 on training, and have people really kind of, at a point where they understand not to give away passwords to people who call them on the phone, not to leave their laptops and unlock cars, not to do all these things that happen all the time. And it's just, I'm just kind of aware that people are so uneducated out there who are dealing with the systems, and we have to educate them to make it happen. And by the way, I don't consider the people who make the mistakes as it's their fault, because they don't know any better. There's some, people who are agents who are doing different works and not IT professionals. It's the fault of the organization. It's the fault of the C-levels in the organization really kind of, buying this gap up. And we got to do it going forward. And by the way, it's so cheap. There's no reason not to do it, based on the risks that you're avoiding.
Absolutely, mitigating that one risk at point of failure, which it seems to be, just based on what the press have been informing us at that point of losing all of that data and the integrity, the credibility, everything to do with all the hard work that company's done, falling at, you say, that last yard of all those billions of investment. It's just such a shame, isn't it? Really, that it's let down. And like you say, it's not necessarily the person that's gone in there, the contractor that's gone in there to do the work. It is down from a C-level point of view, isn't it? That they haven't implemented the contingency, the training, the investment into that really fundamental part of cybersecurity, the good old S3 bucket.
Yeah, I mean, the most recent example is it wasn't really a cybersecurity issue, but the person who hit out the false alarm in Hawaii, that there were incoming nuclear missiles sent to every phone in Hawaii and just basically sent the whole place into a panic. That was training. That was a lack of training, that someone needed to understand how this stuff came forward, and really not putting the fail safes in there. So, somebody, some numbskull couldn't send a message like that willy-nilly within the organization, within whatever organization they were doing. And so I understand the person wasn't fired, and it's probably the best thing for it to make it happen. But, what if this was them exposing, top secret information by hitting the wrong button because of lack of training and making it happen? That's probably not any worse or any better than them, scaring the hell out of people in Hawaii. But, these sorts of things can really be shored up with just a bit of information dissemination. We focus so much on technology as our savior. And I think that's all well and good. We want to automate as much as we can. But the reality is we're automating around the human condition and the ability for humans to kind of step up and do the right things. And I think we're always assuming that the tools will save us. And the reality is, in a security situation, if someone's not trained to leverage the tools correctly and to understand how basics of security are there, basically log in and log out and not put their password on the terminals and not give user ID and password information over the phone, then that's all for naught. And then there's nothing I can do to really kind of shore up that stuff. And like I tell my clients all the time, I can't fix stupid. I can fix technology, but if people aren't understanding what's going on out there, that's something that just has to be corrected, via learning and training. And by the way, that's not calling them stupid. They just don't have the training they need to make them effective in kind of helping us, provide the best cloud security that we can. And that's going to be a common issue. I mean, that and basically updating the systems and patching up the on-premise systems is one thing. But the reality is, human beings, as any cybersecurity person will tell you, are always the weakest link in the chain in terms of locking down the systems.
Yeah, you're right. It's on-premise systems. You would have thought there would be, at least a higher state of awareness now, with just like we've already said, with the awareness of huge companies losing or getting infiltrated because their cybersecurity isn't secure enough at the weakest point. And it brings us on nicely quickly, if we can cover off that Gartner have actually predicted that in a very short while, if not this year, I believe, that at least 90% of organizations will have to support some aspects of that BYOD or bring your own device strategy. And that adds, as you could probably bring some information onto this, that's going to bring a whole new level of cybersecurity issues to people, not just with the on-premise, but with all the other things that are coming in and, sharing cloud data and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge within these organizations, because you want to basically have the freedom of having people bring the devices in that are going to make them most productive. And however, these devices can be, security threats unto themselves. And so IoT is another big instance of that. So I wrote a blog a couple of weeks ago of the fact that we're willy-nilly installing thermostats, and we're updating our robots, and all these things that occur within these companies without IT really being aware that these things are occurring. And these are platforms, these are computers unto themselves, and they could be turned to attack the systems from the networks that they're now granted access to, the internal network systems that are going out there. And so the bring your own devices thing's the same way. A couple of years ago, I think it was a big party and everybody wanted everybody to bring their own device, use whatever laptops and phones and everything else that came forward. But unless they're a very small company, I think the larger companies kind of put their foot down on that. So they'll pay for a device, they'll give you the device, but it has to be a level of security that's going to be managed remotely or going to manage centrally, from the organizations. And they're not, unfortunately, are going to let everybody run their own technology to the fact that it's going to put things in jeopardy. And I think that's, going to be the way going forward. It's just we can't afford the risk of all these various devices that really can be, backfire on us. I don't think our Roombas are going to kill us in our sleep anytime soon, but I think that we're going to leverage devices that exist within these organizations that we're unaware of. They're able to basically attack things in the organization. So we're going to have to be very conservative in how we look at this stuff, specifically with cloud computing stuff. All the devices that are popping up, they're very cheap, they're very effective, but in my experience, they're very dangerous unless they're controlled. The opportunity is that we have all these things that are coming up that always need network access, and to put anything on the networks. And that doesn't mean they can't exist within the companies and be productive. They just can't be on the corporate networks. They have to be on their own subnets. They have to be protected. They have to be firewalls in terms of how we're dealing with these devices. So it requires some additional thinking in terms of network security and how these things really kind of run within the organizations. And training again comes in the fact that you can't come in and attach something to the network without authorization to make it happen. And while many organizations have sniffers and they'll see the thing on the network and come get it off, as quickly as it's put on, more organizations are not done. I know that for a fact because I've connected to networks just to see how the security runs, and they have no idea that I'm there and I can do whatever I want, and I'll report that directly to the security administrator so they can move to correct the problem. But the reality is it costs money to make these things happen. So security ultimately is a matter of discipline. It's a matter of spending some money. It's a matter of leveraging technology. And now we understand it's a matter of training, which I think we're missing in the past. To blame myself, I missed it in the past. So in other words, I came to realize that the humans were the weakest links that we're dealing with, not necessarily the technology, and then recommended training about 5 years back. But before that, I figured I'd just go ahead and automate the humans out of the equation. You can't do that.
It's very true. I mean, this has been a great show about cybersecurity and training, and it really is, like you said, it comes down to a C-level thing as well as the individual, because the highest risk point of failure, as we've already said, has been highlighted, is at that point of a contractor coming in and just not locking the bucket, or just not locking things down with the correct passwords, or it's on the wrong network or something like that. So it's great. It's been a great show. I've really enjoyed it. We've covered some great points there, Dave. Thanks for being a part of the training show this week, as always.
Yeah, this is one of the most important shows we did. So you guys go out there and shore up your cybersecurity with a training plan. Right? It's not going to cost you much, and you'll make millions of dollars in terms of the risk reduction that you'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've got any questions about cybersecurity that we haven't covered off on today's show, feel free to give myself or David a tweet about it, or like and comment and subscribe to the channel, where you can obviously put comments at the bottom of the video. We're on LinkedIn. We're all over the place, David and I, sharing these shows. So we welcome that interaction. That's always really good. You can follow David on Twitter, which is at David Linthicum. I'm on Twitter as well, which is Nelson_Hilliard. So if you have any questions, shoot us a tweet and we'll see what we can do about that. So thanks again for watching, and thanks, David, again for your time on the show. That is absolutely awesome, and look forward to next week. I believe we've got some really exciting guests coming up, haven't we, David?
We do. We've got some great people coming up that are I may disagree with, but I think that's okay.
Okay, I'm going to step in between that disagreement, and we'll have that equilibrium of a little bit of harmony there.
Good luck. Thanks, Brett.
Fantastic. Thanks again, David. Cheers. And thanks again for everyone for watching. Really appreciate that. Thank you.